Chapter 21 is called Over My Dead Body. Hands up! Coke and Pep spun around to see themselves surrounded by five guys wearing black ski masks. They didn't appear to be armed, but they were all poised like ninjas, as if they were about to do martial arts moves. Three elderly tourists backed against the walls of the room, panic in their eyes. What? Coke shouted. Who are you? We're with the Washington, D.C. Police Department, one of the SWAT team barked. You're under arrest. The voice sounded familiar, but Coke couldn't place it. And then the guy started whistling, The Yellow Rose of Texas. Coke looked down. He noticed that the policeman was wearing cowboy boots. This had to be the guy at the rest stop, the guy who'd been sending them all those ciphers. What did we do? Pep asked, trembling. We didn't do anything. Attempted robbery, said the guy wearing cowboy boots. We know you are about to steal Dorothy's ruby slippers. That's ridiculous, Coke said. We would never. Shut up, said the guy with the cowboy boots. I don't want to hear your lame excuses. Take 'em, boys. Sure thing, boss, one of the SWAT team guys said, grabbing Coke roughly by the arm, another grabbing Pep. The three old ladies who had been looking on shocked now appeared to be angry. Kids, one of them said, sneering. They're a couple of juvenile delinquents. Imagine, the second old lady said, stealing Dorothy's slippers. Shameful. And where are their parents? Asked the third old lady. That's the problem with children these days. No adult supervision. They just run wild in the streets. We didn't, Coke tried to explain, but the black gloved hand clapped over his mouth. Excuse us, folks, the guy in the cowboy boots said as they made their way with the twins toward the emergency exit. Sorry for the disturbance. Gotta keep young creeps like this off the streets. Just doing our job, you understand. Enjoy your day. Thank you, officers, one of the old ladies said gratefully. Thank you for keeping us safe. No problem, ma'am. The SWAT team dragged the twins out of the exit and into a dingy stairwell, locking the emergency exit door behind them. No alarm sounded. There was no sign of Maya and Bones coming to the rescue. Coke and Pep were on their own. There were stairs leading up from that point, presumably to the roof of the museum. Pep was trying to bite the guy holding her, but it was no use. Coke couldn't move his hands to get to any of the stuff in his backpack. The guy wearing cowboy boots pulled off his ski mask. Archie clones, Pep said, gasping. Yes, it was evil the lunatic who had already tried to boil the twins in oil and drown them in ice cream. You can take off your masks now, boys, he said. It's safe here. The other members of the SWAT team pulled off their masks. Coke and Pep recognized two of them as the bowler dudes who had been terrorizing them all the way across the country. The other two were primarily teenagers whose faces were not familiar. The five had posed as a legitimate SWAT team, and all of them had big evil grins on their faces because they had pulled it off. It's so nice to see you again, Archie Clone said with false sincerity. I hope you enjoyed the museum. Did you get the chance to see Albert Einstein's pipe? Warren Harding's pajamas? No, we were trying to. Shut up, Archie Clone said. They were rhetorical questions. What does that mean, boss? Asked one of the bowler dudes. None of your business, barked Archie Clone irritably. Then he turned back to the twins, rolling his eyes. Please excuse my dim witted assistants, he whispered. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hire geniuses like us. These are the guys who used to beat me up at school. Now they work for me. Leave us alone, Pep shouted, trying to pull away from the bowler dude who was holding her. You have a sickness. Do you realize that? You should get help. Pep, 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 Archie Clone said, shaking his head sadly. I thought you and I had an understanding. Actually, I kind of thought you liked me. I was hoping we could watch the 4th of July fireworks together. Over my dead body, Pep shouted, causing the fake SWAT team to giggle uncontrollably. It's not even the 4th of July, Coke informed Archie Clone. That's tomorrow. Don't you think I know that, Coke? Archie Clone asked. I sent out a series of fake texts talking about a robbery in Washington on the 4th of July. I hoped your friends, Maya and Bones, would intercept them, and they did. Now everybody is expecting the big robbery tomorrow. That's why I'm doing it today. Ha 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 ha! Went the fake SWAT team. They sounded like they had been programmed to laugh whenever he did. What are you going to steal? Pep asked. Well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you, said Archie Clone. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. I'm going to kill you anyways. Went the SWAT team. You're going to steal the Star Spangled Banner from the museum, aren't you, Coke? It's the symbol of America. Of course not, Archie Clone replied. That's way too obvious. And besides, that flag wouldn't fit on my bedroom wall. Ha 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 ha! Ha 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 ha! With the fake SWAT team. You're going to steal Dumbo, the flying elephant, accused Pep. No, 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 Archie Clone said, almost whispering. Something even better. He leaned closer to Pep and she could smell his breath. There was a gleam in his eye. I'm going to steal the most valuable treasure they have in this museum, he continued, a true symbol of America. Are you ready for this? I'm going to steal Abraham Lincoln's top hat. No, Coke shouted. You're insane, said Pep. Insane, Archie Clone said. Seems to me that it would be insane to drive all the way across the country to see a duct tape fashion show. It's your mother who's insane. Leave our mother out of this, Pep shouted. Oh, please, said Archie Clone. Spare me the theatrics. How about we just kill him now, boss, said one of the Boulevards right here in the stairwell. Not yet, Archie Clone said. Not here. He pulled a photo out of his pocket and showed it to the twins. As you know, I have a thing for hats, he told them. This one was made by J.Y. Davis, a Washington hat maker. Lincoln had the black silk mourning band added in honor of his son, Willie, who got sick and died at the age of 11. And do you know when Lincoln wore this hat for the last time? When? Pep asked. April 14th, 1865, Archie Clone said, on his way to Ford's Theater. The night he was shot, Coke said. That's right, said Archie Clone. After the assassination, the hat was given to the patent office, and they transferred it to the Smithsonian Institution in 1867. The hat was stashed in a basement storage room for 26 years. After they put it on display, it became one of the most treasured objects in the museum. And soon it will be part of my unique hat collection. Ha 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 ha! Went the fake SWAT team. I thought all you cared about was getting Dr. Warsaw's $1 million for being the last surviving member of the Genius Files, Coke said. $1 million? Archie Clone said with a snort. That's petty cash. Do you have any idea how much Lincoln's top hat would be worth? It doesn't matter, Pep said. As soon as you try to sell it, you'll get caught. Nobody would buy it from you. They'd know it was stolen from the museum. All very true, Pepco, Archie Clone said, looking at his watch, but I can ransom it, and for a lot more than $1 million. My good friend, Mrs. Higgins, is downstairs stealing the top hat right now as we speak. So you and Mrs. Higgins are working together, Pep said. She'll never get away with it, Coke said. It's under glass. There are security cameras. Ha 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 ha, with the fake SWAT team. Glass security guards, Archie Clone said. You must be joking, Coke. Take them upstairs, boys. The fake SWAT team shoved Coke and Pep up the stairs to the next level. There were no more stairs above that. A gray door had three words stenciled in on it in black: Museum Roof Access. Coke and Pep stopped instinctively. Roofs are dangerous places. They're high for one thing. People fall off them for another and die. What do we have to do with Abraham Lincoln's hat? Pep asked. Why don't you just steal it and leave us alone? I'm glad that you brought that up, Pep, said Archie Clone. I've been keeping an eye on you two for a long time. Dr. Warsaw tried to kill you on several occasions but failed. After he died and I took over the Genius Files program, I dipped you in boiling oil, but somehow you managed to escape. I tried to drown you in ice cream, but you escaped again. That impressed me. I like your style. You two almost seem unkillable, if that's a word. Coke said a few words to Archie Clone that you have undoubtedly heard on the playground, or perhaps even when your parents are really, really mad. Needless to say, they are not nice words. I'll disregard that remark, Archie Clone said, because I could really use a couple of resourceful kids like you in my operation. Geniuses, so to speak. It would be a big improvement over the current personnel, if you know what I mean. We're not geniuses, Pep said. Never say genius again. I'm going to give you kids a choice, Archie Clone said. Join me. I'll cut you in on whatever I do. We'll be equal partners. Stick with me, and we're going to have a lot of fun and make a lot of money. You'll be set for life. This is a golden opportunity for you. What's our other choice? Coke said. Asked. Your other choice, Archie Clone said. Well, your other choice, of course, is to die. We would never work for you, Pep said, almost spitting the words in his face. Not if our lives depended on it. That's too bad, Archie Clone said, because your lives do depend on it. Take them up to the roof, fellows. Make them, maybe they'll change their tune once we get up there. One of the boulder dudes pushed open the roof access door, and Coke and Pep were shoved through it. They were outside now. From its height, from this height, the Washington Monument appeared to be very close, almost looming over them. There were three helicopters parked on the roof. Nobody was inside them, but the rotors were turning slowly. One of the bowler dudes shoved the twins toward the nearest chopper. Did you know that when the President of the United States travels by helicopter, there are always three identical helicopters in the air? Archie Clone said that way, if somebody wanted to shoot this helicopter down, they won't know which one to shoot at. It also means that if there are three helicopters flying around Washington, the police do not bother them because they assume the president is inside one of them. Get in. Coke and Pep didn't have any choice. The bowler dudes pushed them into the helicopter, and Archie Clone climbed into the pilot seat. Where is Mrs. Higgins with my top hat? He asked nobody in particular. What's taking her so long? She probably stopped to wash her hands or some such nonsense. Where are you taking us? Pep demanded. Not far, Archie Clone replied. If you don't want to join my team, I'll drop you two off at the Washington Monument. You'll, you mean you're going to let us go after you steal Lincoln's hat? Asked Pep hopefully. No, Archie Clone said as he fiddled with the controls. I said I'd drop you off at the Washington Monument. The key word is drop. I can't have you two blabbing about my plans. You're going to drop us on the Washington Monument, Pep asked. It's a beautiful structure, isn't it? Archie Clone said as he gazed skyward. Looks like a gigantic sharpened pencil. Most people don't know this, but there's an aluminum cap at the top with 8 lightning rods attached to it. Each of them are 6 inches long. Get the point? You're a lunatic, Coke shouted. I know, Archie Clone said. It won't be easy to drop you two right on the point. But if I miss by a few inches, it's okay. You'll fall 555 feet 5 1/8 inches to the ground. The impact will finish the job, so it's a win win for me. He pushed a button on the dashboard and the helicopter's rotors started spinning faster. The bowler dudes ran over and climbed into the other two helicopters. Pep was paralyzed with fear. She gripped the seat tightly as if that would somehow protect her. In his head, Coke frantically calculated their options. He and Pep could jump out and make a run for it. They could try to overpower Archie Clone, or they could just sit there and hope somebody would rescue them. He looked up at the Washington Monument. Once the chopper was up in the air, all bets were off. Archie Clone pulled out his cell phone. Hurry up, Higgins, he barked once he made the connection. What's taking so long? I haven't got all day. I want my top hat, and I want it now. While Archie Clone was talking, Coke leaned over to his sister. When I say so, we're going to jump out, he whispered in her ear. I can't, she whispered back. We might get killed. We're sure to get killed if we don't jump out, Coke said. Come on, just like we jumped off the cliff. You've got to trust me. Archie Clone cursed and slapped his cell phone shut. He saw something in the distance that the twins didn't. Another helicopter coming from across the National Mall. He flipped a few switches and the rotor spun faster. Where is Higgins? Archie Clone said, looking around angrily. And then, that's it. Forget the stupid hat. I'm getting out of here. Cope saw the helicopter approaching too. Look, I'll bet it's the real cops, he shouted. You might as well surrender. You're done for. Not if I can help it, Archie Clone said. He pulled back on the joystick and the helicopter began to lift off the roof. As the other helicopter got closer, Cope could see that there were no policemen in it. It's Maya and Bones, he shouted, pointing. Not them, Archie Clone spat. I told you they'd be here, shouted Pep. The helicopter the twins were in was 5 feet above the roof. We've got to jump now. I can't. As the other helicopter reached the roof, Maya jumped out. She had a bag around her neck and she reached in and pulled out an orange frisbee. It's a frisbee grenade, Coke yelled. She can't see us. She's going to blow us up. Their helicopter was almost 10 feet above the roof now. Coke couldn't wait any longer. He gave Pep a shove and pushed her out. Then he jumped out himself, landing clumsily on the roof next to his sister and twisting his ankle painfully. Maya got into position to throw the frisbee at Archie Clone's chopper. She was about to let it loose when a dart hit Maya on the side of the neck. Coke looked to the right and saw one of the bowler dudes sitting in a chopper with a blowgun in his mouth. That then that chopper flew away. Maya stopped, her eyes rolling back in her head. She crumpled to her knees, dropping the frisbee. It was like everything was in slow motion as the frisbee fell into the concrete. Cook put his hands on his ears in anticipation of the inevitable explosion, but nothing happened. There was no explosion. The frisbee detonated. The frisbee detonates on the second impact, Pep shouted. Remember? She skips it off the ground. Pep ran over and grabbed the frisbee. Archie Clone's chopper was about 15 feet off the roof now and moving horizontally. In a few seconds, it would be out of range. Throw it! Coke shouted to his sister. He's leaving, Pep shouted back. I can't. At that moment, Archie Clone stopped his helicopter and swiveled it around. You kids think you are so smart, he shouted out the open window. Well, nobody is smarter than me. He pulled out what appeared to be a gun, but it was in fact much worse than a gun. It was a missile launcher, the kind that terrorists use. One well placed shot could take off the roof of the museum. Archie Clone pointed the monstrous thing at the twins and looked through the scope. Throw it, Pep! Coke shouted. Now! Pep reared back and whipped the frisbee hard, so hard that she fell down as she let it fly. The frisbee hit the chopper just above the fuel tank. A moment later, there was a flash followed by a fireball that enveloped the whole chopper. I'm talking about a big orange action movie fireball. Coke covered his eyes to shield himself from the flash of light, the heat, and the flying debris. Nice throw, he said, generally impressed by his sister's skill. The flaming chopper spun crazily for a few seconds and then crashed to the ground next to the museum, resulting in another fireball. Terrified tourists scattered to avoid getting hit. Coke and Pep looked over the edge of the roof to watch the twisted wreckage smoke and burn. Nobody climbed out of the chopper. There would be no survivors. Pep began to sob. Her brother put his arm around her. I killed somebody, she said quietly. We both killed him. Coke told her there was no other way. Coke landed Coke landed his chopper on the roof, jumped out, and ran over to the twins. Get out of here, he implored them. Quick, before the police show up to find out what happened. By 5 o'clock, when the museums closed for the day, teams of very official looking workers had carted away most of what was left of the burned helicopter outside the Museum of American History. There had been a story on the news about the helicopter crash near the Washington Monument, but government officials had managed to keep the details of the accident away from the press. Life had returned to normal on the National Mall. People were jogging and skateboarding as if nothing had ever happened. Coke and Pep were lying around on the grass when their parents came strolling out of the National Air and Space Museum. So, did you kids have a good time? Asked Dr. McDonald. Did you see Abraham, excuse me, Albert Einstein's pipe? How about Warren Harding's pajamas? Asked Mrs. McDonald. It was really cool, Coke told them. We saw the actual flag that inspired Francis Scott Key to write the Star Spangled Banner, and we saw that John Bull train. Did you know it used to take 2 days to get from New York to Philadelphia? And Dumbo the Flying Elephant and Dorothy's ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz. We learned a lot about American history, Coke told his parents. I think it's going to really help us in school this year. Great, Dr. McDonald said. I'm so glad you kids went there. See, it's possible to go places that are fun and educational at the same time. You're limping, Coke, Mrs. McDonald said. What happened? Coke looked at his sister. Well, the truth is, he said, we were kidnapped by this crazy teenager who looked like Archie from the comics. He dragged us up to the roof of the museum where he was going to take us by helicopter and drop us on the point of the Washington Monument. But we jumped out at the last minute and Pep threw a frisbee grenade at the chopper. It blew out of the sky. I twisted my ankle, then I jumped out of the helicopter. Their parents looked at him for a long time. Ha ha! Laughed Dr. McDonald. That's a good one. You kids sure cracked me up. Hey, Mrs. McDonald said, what do you say we go watch some fireworks tonight? Tomorrow is the 4th of July, you know. I don't think so, Mom, Pep said. It's been a long day.